We're back. We're 1-0. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Tassopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Carter, and the Quan Cosby. This is the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. So get your horns up, because here we go. Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. We needed a pass rush. We were pining for a pass rush all offseason. We got one on Saturday, and now we have one in the building. We have Lamarr Houston, Texas great, NFL pro. And we owe you a little congrats, man. Word on the street is someone got their MBA pretty recently at UT.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I got my MSTC, but it's close enough for me.
Close to masters and masters. I didn't tell you guys this. I've been thinking about going back to school, but not for scholastic reasons. Just because I miss it.
He needs to find himself a wife. That's what it is.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it out loud, but that's definitely the case. Before we get into the big game that's coming up this weekend, Lamar, I want to hear any kind of reaction you have. The defense looked pretty solid. We had major defense. They played great, right? How do you feel about the pass rush?
I think they're really improved. I've seen those guys practicing in training camp and really trying to get better with their skills with Bo Davis. And I think I saw some improvement on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were calling a couple things we were looking for on the show going into it. We were looking for Sanders, some positives. We're looking for Sanders to get involved offensively.
Yeah, he was the highest rated tight end in all of Power 5.
Amazing. That hit. We were looking for Bijan to get involved in the pass game. That worked. The pass block for a bunch of young guys, a bunch of rookies, pretty good. Like a couple penalties to start, and outside of the mullet trying to, go party in the back in the first drive, he was not that bad either. X-Men Whittington, we're going to need to see more from them. But a big thing we were looking for is one guy to really jumpstart the defense. And it looks like it's number 5. It looks like Jameson's going to be our guy defensively. What are your guys' thoughts on him?
I think he's great. Veteran DB. He's got really good ball skills. As you can see, he had 1 for 6. I love it. And him and Overshawn as pretty good DBs. I think they're both going to be solid players for the defense this fall, especially as far as leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, I agree. That's Jameson. He should be. He's been there longer. He came back. He needs to raise his stock. So it's almost like a contract year for him if he want to play in the league. And then Overshawn, and not just Overshawn, some of these young cats that came in, Murphy and some of them, man, just tackling and the penetration. And so some could say, oh, it's ULM. I don't care. We didn't see a lot of that at any team last year. And and PK, I think another year under his belt, understanding his players a little bit better. But I like the motor. One thing in playing with Lamar, even as good as he was, it was because he outworked everybody and he had that motor. And I'm starting to see that on the D-line a little bit, but also with just the way they're tackling and doing their thing. And it was game 1, but we've seen worse game 1s, and I was proud of the defensive effort. That's for sure.
Love the energy too. They had that energy and that passion this weekend more than they used to have. So it's starting to seem like the guys are really loving to play together.
Yeah, and you mentioned number 5 as well, DB, and we had Michael Griffin on last week talking about how the defensive backfield plays better when the D line plays well, right? When you have a strong foundation, your roof doesn't have to work as hard. We got 3 sacks last year. Our leading sacker had 2.5 sacks. So it's gonna be a long road if we can't get to the quarterback. So, I mean, as a pass rusher, what are you seeing out of this group that maybe has changed from last year?
Like Quan said, they're playing with more motor. I think they're doing better with their hands as well, getting off blocks and actually getting penetration in the backfield. There's still a bunch of young guys and they're raw, but they're starting to pick up better techniques and playing with a higher motor as they go on.
Well, and Griff said it last week. He said, man, it's amazing how much better they were when that quarterback was under the stress. And you throw it a little bit behind them, tip ball, Jameson take it to the crib. So all of that works hand in hand. And they're going to have to do it even more with a little bit different athletes this weekend.
Yeah, but they were at least putting pressure on the quarterback. He was uncomfortable. You could see them actually making a difference, like Quan saying, in the pass game and applying that pressure to the quarterback and really contributing to overall defense performance. As opposed to the last couple of years, they're much better than me this year.
Absolutely. And, it's usually we're on the other end of bad special teams play but it was nice to be on, the receiving end of some good special teams play. If you look at the flat scoreline, it's 52-10. You're just going to assume the offense went off. Obviously, negate the field goal. It's 49 points put up by the Horns, but one of them is off a block punt, Jameson, and then Jameson also, like you said, returned 1 for 6. But going back to the defensive line, can we say Coburn might be the most important player on the defensive side of the football?
99?
Yeah,
Definitely. He's the senior leadership, and anytime you have a senior leader on your D line, he's basically your heart and soul of the team. So he gets those guys fired up, and he plays with passion. And he plays strong. I like the way he plays. He plays low to the ground.
Yeah. How was the vibe in the stadium, Q?
Oh man, it was for game one, late night. It was everybody ready for football, man. Everybody was ready to get back rolling, walking up to the tailgates. It's cool because on one hand, the Bevo Boulevard and all that stuff, people like that stuff, but really people showed up. And now this week, the fire marshal going to be there, but they showed up and it was cool. And even talking about Coburn, what's interesting about him, Murphy kind of taking that starting role, two things to what Lamar said. Coburn's leadership didn't stop. He actually, I think it added a little more fire to him. And when he came in, he realized, again, he's a senior. So if you're going to make it to that next level, you better go. When you get your number called, when they rotate, go in there and be a difference. So it's going to be cool to kind of see the way they work that. Two different players, but at least last weekend, you can see the impact both of them was making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lamar was your senior year, you elevated to a second-round pick. What was your mindset throughout the season? Obviously, you want to win games and you're playing for a team that's competitive, but how are you feeling as a senior, elevating your draft stock looking forward?
No, I don't know. I was in the same conferences in Dominican Sue and Gerald McCoy. So, my whole thing was just to be better than those guys. And that's, should put me in some good standings across the country as far as the D-line. So, I had two of the best D tackles in the draft in my conference, and that was fortunate for me. So, all I need to focus on was just playing a little bit better than those guys.
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a defensive line. The Sue McCoy defensive line, that's crazy. Those guys were absolutely, I mean, Sue, say what you will about him being a crazy MFer in the pros, the best defensive college players of all time. Griff also, just calling back to the last interview, said a lot of the players today don't know what that Arkansas rivalry really was with Texas. And a lot of the guys may not really have grasped what the Alabama rivalry is. Off the field, these are two programs, sort of the biggest, most recognizable programs in the country. No question. But these are two teams that have met for the national title. Twice. And an injury away from it swinging the other way. How often do you think about that game? Like, does this, this coming up, this game coming up, does it bring back some old feelings? And what would you say to the young players, like maybe to help motivate them, and really get in your head about the importance of this one? Not just because it's Bama, Texas, and we're going to the SEC, but from your perspective as a guy who's played in this kind of game before against a great team.
I think I talk about that game more often than I realized, just from people asking, when did I play at Texas? What years was it? And, that being the last time they went to the national championship, it's very it stands out, So it's like, you mentioned you played with Pope McGoy. Oh, you guys played against Bama and you lost in that national championship. But I talk about it more often than I like. But I think that the guys should first of all know anytime you're playing on a big platform where it's basically a nationally televised game and everybody's going to be watching, you're representing every Longhorn that's ever been there, and you're representing us as a team. And, the way you play is the way you basically, represent the generations of Longhorn before you. And it's important for you to know that, hey, what I do out here this Saturday is now going to be the outlook of the Longhorns from here on out. And you want to make that impactful outlook to say, hey, we're here, we bleed orange and we're tough, we're some hard hitters, we're some runners, we're some, go-getters, whatever you want to call it. We have that passion to win the game, and it should be a long, long day coming in our house.
Man, that's what I think about too. One, Bama is damn good. Let's be real. But they didn't go undefeated last year. Some teams found a way to hit them in the mouth, especially on the road and early and beat them. So they're not unbeatable. And then two, man, that level of pride that we always talk about. I'm not saying you need to throw back to Sam Ehlinger, we're back. But if you really feel like you want to take a step, if you want to get that soft kind of perception off your team, this is how you do it. Number one team coming to town. And what's weird is in some polls, you're not even ranked. What do you have to lose? Go out there and play reckless. Go out there and crack heads. Go out. You literally have nothing to lose. You're a 17, 18, 19, point underdog. Let everything you see. I go back to the USC game. We were out in Cali, bro. The Cali people were dang near patting us on the back like we were a charity case. Oh, hey, y'all just enjoy California. You don't stand a chance, but just enjoy. And on so many levels, clearly we know what Vince did, but what the defense did, they made that stop and several more. Mike G's interception in the end zone, that fielder's perspective, and hey, we have nothing to lose. Then we jumped out on them. They came back. They're a great team. We knew it was going to happen. And then we finished them. There was an ounce of doubt. I think that's what I want to look at, because I talk a lot about this team this year and their body language, going by practice, seeing them in pregame. They didn't look sure for the last few years. Matter of fact, since Lamar's senior year, they haven't looked sure when they got on the football field. But it's this weird little aura, and I don't know if it's leadership. I don't know if it's Sark's second year, if it's work, because a lot of this staff came from Bama. But as Tyson say, everybody got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. How are they going to react? And you know what? They can hit them in the mouth too. Like, bro, you got on pads. No better chance than now to kind of truly turn that. And I'm not even saying go beat them. That would be nice. And I think
just take them to a dog. Just take them to a dog fight. I want to see a dog fight. The LSU game, I thought we had.
I was just thinking that, man. I was thinking about the LSU game.
I thought we had turned the corner on it being a dog fight every single time. The LSU game. And then, of course, we digress, and that was a different coach and all that. But just a dog fight like that, that's what I'd like to see for this team, because it is a new year. And I think if they show that, they can build on it.
Well, let me ask you guys, as former players, obviously we're right now a 20-point underdog here, right? So there's a big chip on the shoulder, but
it's going up.
It keeps going up because Bama just waxed the floor with Utah State last weekend. Now, obviously we want to win this game, but if we don't win this game and it's close enough, does that still do enough for a locker room's confidence heading into the rest of the games this season? Let's say we lose by a single score.
Yeah, that's definitely a morale booster that you can carry through and build momentum through the season. I mean, if you're a 20-point underdog and you leave the game losing by 3 or losing by 6, and you took a great team to a dogfight, I mean, that says a lot about you as a team, and it'll affect other teams when they see you watching that tape. As the season goes on, they're like, man, hey, these guys might not have won, but they were really taking it to Alabama, and I think that's important. This game will help them have a lasting effect throughout the year. It won't be just about this individual game. They win this game, it'll be powerful for the rest of the year. If they come close, it'll be powerful for the rest of the year. We just want to see them have that passion and that grit to just, take it to them.
Yeah, and two things. Sark said it this week. I was listening. Of course, this coach speak, but he's like, all of our goals are still in play after this game. I like that, but I like the Sark who says, I need to be playing in December. So my thing is like, no, we're going to go give them all we have. So then the second part is it depends on their leadership. We'll see how this game works. If they get the business, who's going to, I hope they don't do this because it's going to be checking a box and cliche. It is way too early for, player-led meetings. It's way too early for that. But, and I think that's just, it's fabrication if you do it this early. But if you have real leaders and they speak their piece and it need to be, we've said it a billion times. Do you like winning or do you hate losing?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those games that regardless how it plays itself out, after that game, we'll learn a lot about that perspective. Do you get so pissed off at losing that you go beat UTSA by 5 touchdowns? That's what you'll learn. I mean, or do you let this game beat you twice, which is unfortunately what we've seen in the last few years, why they lost 6 in a row. So what is your leadership like?
That's why we lost OU is like that. Sorry, Toss. When you get in there.
No, I was just gonna say, well, they don't even necessarily need the player-led meeting, right? Because Sark is a guy that just came from Alabama before he got to Texas. Like, he's got enough fire in it that he should be able to motivate these guys. And you know, the post-game presser was really, I heard what I needed to hear, right? Quan, he was like, we haven't even talked about the Alabama game. When, you know, they're asking like, hey, you know, you played really well, but like, was this in the conversation? He was like, no, we haven't even said that school's name yet. But then, of course, the next day you hear like, yeah, we've had the game plan ready since 6 months ago.
I was sitting there thinking,
Sark has circled this game.
Coach speak, but if you haven't prepared, yeah, we got a problem, partner.
Sark has circled this game since the day he got hired at Texas. You best believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
So is
The
Saban.
kids.
So is Saban, yeah.
Play for him.
Yeah, we're not necessarily on the same. Again, you're talking non-ranked to number 1, but I promise you, Sark took a lot of Saban's dudes, even some of his players, and Saban is that dude. He petty, he crazy in all the good ways that make him a great coach, and he circled his game too. Best believe the level that he recruited in this state, he want to beat Texas by 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, and getting those guys to understand that, like, look, you're playing them next year too. All these young guys that aren't going to the league, like, you're playing them next year. You're going to play them the next year after that too, and probably the next year after that. Like, don't let them go get the bragging rights now, because you want to go in, and if it's a 7-score game, like you were talking about, 7-point game, like you were talking about, Nick, then next year you're like, yeah, we have a chance, and we're coming for you guys this year. Like, it's a real thing. This is a real rivalry.
Well, and that's also what you've seen with the Aggies. As much as we don't like to talk about the Aggies, Alabama, I don't know what it is, and even before Jimbo, but certainly with Jimbo, and that's kind of my thing about Sark. Oh, Jimbo don't give 2 bleeps. He is talking crap to Saban. He is calling them out. He is calling them crazy, and I think his players are feeding off of that perspective. No, I'm not scared. Let's go. And every game they play, win or lose, it is way more. It's closer than the line and everything. Say it is exactly what Lamar. It is a dog fight when they play those crazy dudes over the way. So that's why I feel like that needs to happen.
Guess who Bama lost to last season?
And they lost Georgia and A&M.
Yep.
That's the other thing. They got to send a message to the SEC as well. Like, this is the league they're going to be playing in. You know, people are going to be watching this. You can't be putting out bad film, you know, or people trying to expose that. So you got to remember, you know, not only is this a big game, but this is sending a message to the rest of the league that, hey, we're coming into SEC and we're not going to be, you know, the punch around ball around here. Like, we finna be competitive, and we're going to be there to win championships and make a difference. So, you know, it's a lot for them to think about going into this game that they should be considering.
Yeah. And on the flip side too, Bama wants to welcome us to the SEC.
Oh, I would say, dude, the memes are gonna make themselves after this game. If it's a dogfight, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, all right, Texas," and they're on, and we're only going that direction. Did we beat the brakes off of us? Welcome to the SEC. That's what it's gonna look like for the next 10 years. Recruiting may take a little bit of a hit, and so I crack up because everybody's like, "It's on Fox. Game day is here." Come on now, if you take out your bias, Baylor, Aggies, all you other folks, there's so many storylines going on with this game. First time Cincinnati. I mean, there's so many things going on with this game that makes sense why game day is on LBJ. Fox game day is happening, and it's going to be crazy in Austin. So it's going to be live. Now we're just going to see off the field, it's going to be insane.
If you had to put your finger on one advantage that Texas has coming into this game, what would it be? It's tough to find out, right?
Being the underdog. I would say being the underdog. You know, I think you already a 20-point underdog. You know, use that chip on your shoulder, man. You know, it's the world. It's you versus the world, and all you got your teammates. So, you know, I should definitely lean on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think 2 of them I would say is, I've already mentioned one, you have nothing to lose. But the other one that I think is an advantage is you have 4 or 5 coaches that was on Bama staff. You know, that is very rare. Even if, you know, Saban always plays guys that he's coached, his disciples and all that, but it's never like 4 or 5 people. It's one dude here, it's one dude there, it's Kirby Smart, it's all of them, but it's never been this many dudes that know them on that level, that recruited every player they have. You know, that again, this quarterback was landed by Sark. You know, Sark did that. So he knows him well. He knows his strength. He knows his weaknesses. So the ability to game plan to that, in theory, should give them somewhat of an advantage.
I would say one quick advantage while I'm at this really quickly, Josh.
Yeah.
I think a quick advantage, the Bama team didn't change too much from last year. They had 7 players get drafted. They had a few guys go undrafted. This Texas team is a lot different than it was last year.
Sure.
Just top to bottom, their roster. There's not a lot of game tape to watch on this team. And I think we didn't see Xavier Worthy really get in the mix last week. He had 2 catches. I think that they probably saved that. So there's not a ton of game planning that Bama can do for these guys this week. They want to save all of their big plays. They want to save their schemes for this big week and kind of just roll over.
Especially with the early lead, you got to pump block for a touchdown. You got that early lead. I think at that point, like, hold on, let's hold some of this.
But we have all the tape in the world to watch on Bryce Young. They don't have anything on Quinn Ewers.
Am I crazy? Am I like, he won the Heisman? He's perceived as one of, if not the best quarterback in the country. There's just something about him that I'm just like not fully blown away by. Is that nuts?
I think because he's still young. You know, I think he's just still the dude's a baller. Right?
No, he's great. He's great, but I don't look at I don't fear him the same way I'd feared a guy like Cam Newton, a guy like Vince, a guy like Liner. It's just like there's something. Yeah. He just seems a bit. I feel like things are wrong
for an Alabama quarterback. Like, they've had some pretty good quarterbacks come through in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He could just not be a standout compared to the rest.
Which is crazy. He won the Heisman, you know.
He won the Heisman, yeah.
But he's like the clear-cut front runner after last week's game too. He was pretty incredible last week.
He was really.
I was like, I don't know what you watched last week, but
no, but he
some of it scared me.
He had some incompletions. He's incompletions, and he didn't throw for that many yards. Obviously, the game got out of hand, and they're not going to, run the score up. I mean, they kind of already did.
I think it's the Bama effect, though. It's like
it probably is
when you're a quarterback at Bama, like it's just supposed to be a robot that just doesn't make any mistakes.
But this offense doesn't scare me like the Mac Jones, Ruggs, offense, Waddle offense.
But they don't have a Henry, those different dudes. They lost Waddle. They lost Jalen. They lost a lot of dudes. But my only thing is, after watching Clemson's quarterback again struggle on that level, Bryce Young doesn't do that. The dude make plays. He makes his throws. He's making the right reads. And that guy was a 5-star dude. And I mean, he struggled.
DJ Owangalele, he stinks.
Yeah, he was.
Let's call it. He's not good. He stinks relative to being a college quarterback. Someone tweeted out that he's going to be a quarterback for another team next year. Probably will be. Lamar, what are you telling the offensive line? Because we're talking about Bryce Young here, and we can talk about all we want. The best player in the country, in my opinion, is probably Will Anderson Jr. And then his running mate Dallas Turner is superb as well. What are you telling the young offensive line about this pass rush?
You know what? Don't hang up. It's always about the next play. Don't get hung up on the last one. They're going to give up some plays. They got some great defensive players. As long as they stay mentally tough and they just don't get lashed on to that one play of them making a mistake and they just keep going to the next play, they'll be fine. Be there for your quarterback, open up holes for Bijan, be nasty, and get after it and just don't get hung up on the last play. Focus on going to the next play and keeping the game going.
Mm-hmm. I got a question about that too, because in my head, for you as a D lineman, if O-line's young or not developed yet, I feel like Sark's going to be, swinging it to Bijan out of the backfield, giving it to Worthy out on the edge. And how frustrating can it be when the ball's coming out so fast and you keep rushing and you keep doing that's how I feel like A&M beat them. And I feel like I saw a little bit of that last week preparing for this week, but if they almost try to eliminate you by the fast, 1, 2, 3, boom. 1, 2, 3, boom. How
Tempo.
frustrating could that be?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really frustrating as a defensive lineman because it feels like you're not getting enough time to get there no matter what you do. How fast you get off the ball. You can be beating guys and the ball's still coming out. You're almost getting to the quarterback. It kind of wears on you, mentally as the game goes on because you feel like, man, am I not doing the right thing right now? But even though you could be doing great, but it's not showing up because you're getting the ball out so quick. I mean, that's the way you kind of nullify great pass rushing is you get the ball out quick and you put it on the DBs, you put it on the linebackers to cover those zones and play man and see who can play the best defense can. But when there's teams doing that nickel and dime, we used to call it the nickel and dime. I mean, you just hate it because it makes the game just a long game.
Especially in 11 a.m. in Texas on turf.
Yeah, in the heat, and you're not getting there. It's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that's the game plan they go for. I hope it's the game plan they go for because I feel like we have guys on our roster that can benefit from that. Jordan Whittington's one of those guys. Xavier Worthy's one of those guys. Bijan Roschon. Yeah. I mean, like we've got all these guys on this team that are quick nickel and dime players that we can just dink and dunk to and just keep that tempo up.
Stay ahead of the chains. Yeah.
I actually thought Quinn made really good reads to like the underneath routes and stuff. I thought he made, I know he threw that interception down the field, but I think he was pressing a little bit there, but like he made some quick decisions out to the slot and underneath. And so I think that'll really benefit us well. Yeah. Nick, I'd be surprised if it wasn't a main part of our offense to get our playmakers involved. Lamar, I really love what you bring up though, about like when you were playing and you're looking at guys like Sue, you're looking at guys like McCoy. I hope that Overshawn is saying, okay, this is a game where a lot of NFL scouts are going to be watching, because they want to see Will Anderson do his thing, and I'm gonna steal the show, and I'm gonna be the best edge rusher in this game, and they're gonna have to draft me. Like, I
mean, that's got to be your approach because anytime you're going in a game where there's scouts going to watch the opponent, like if I'm playing against Nebraska or if I'm playing against OU, I'm walking away from the game the best defensive tackle, and each one of those guys who are seniors has to be looking at it like, hey, this is where you're going to make your money. You got to make this game where you're standing out against them as an opponent and you're doing better than those in your position and the ones that they're actually scouting, because that's what's going to get you picked up.
I mean, considering we're unranked, I mean, think about how many scouts are going to be in the building.
What I was about to say, Griffin talked about it last year. He's like, I had Michael Huff right next to me, but when they watching Huff, I want him to be like, who is that dude right there?
Yeah.
So as they're watching this game, which everybody on the planet will, just to see the storylines, it's good, bright and early. I know people don't like the early game. I don't mind because
what are your thoughts on the early game?
That early anyway.
What are your thoughts on the early game, Lamar? Because
I like them primetime games, man. After being in the league, anything at 7 and 9 is where I want to be. The lights on.
Yeah, that's what. We're in West Coast. I have to be pretty drunk by 9 a.m. this upcoming weekend. It's a lot of pressure to be up. Like, I'm 27 years old nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a grown ass man. Like, I can't. It takes a little more than usual for me. Like, I can't go out Friday night. Like, I have to get a good night's sleep Friday night now.
Mimosas for you, Josh.
I just think that I felt like last week with Worthy and Whittington, probably our two potential biggest playmakers outside of Bijan, it was about as dull of a game as they could have had.
I think it was intentional, though.
I think that this is a situation. I love the chip on the back. Even like I saw the Ohio State game as a 17-point favorite last week, and the Notre Dame head coach was like, we're going to pencil that in. And they ended up losing, but they covered. They did not lose by 17. And I think that, this could be wishful thinking, a little Kool-Aid sipping, but I would love for this to be a really tough place to play because we were right there. The LSU, if you go to that LSU game, that LSU team was not only the best team in the country, obviously, but maybe one of the best teams we've seen, period, of all time in college football. And we gave them the toughest game they had. Mm-hmm. We were a Todd Orlando smoking a little, on the sideline, all out third and God, no, all out blitz. Like this is a Madden game. Away from really making this something serious. Like, and then, last year, the OU game, we're winning. They make the QB change, which was again unplanned for, which goes to what you're saying, Nick. Maybe we have some tricks up their sleeve because we have all the tape on these guys. They don't really have enough tape on us, and we didn't have tape on Caleb Williams. If we're, let's say, best case scenario, we're up at half. Q and Lamar, what are you, as the veteran leaders of the team? Obviously, it's going to be very coach heavy, but what are you saying to, maybe your positional groups as the veteran leaders if you're up to hold the lead at home? And then not do what the Texas has done as of late.
0-0. Like we've always said it's 0-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Mad Dog always said that 0-0. I mean, fortunately for us, we were actually up by 21 by halftime most times. There's been a couple times we rolled our helmets out and the game's gotten tough, but I always tell the guys 0-0, game starting over, we're going out there fresh and don't let what happened in the first half affect you in the next half and just play your game. Don't try and reach too much. Don't try and do too much. Just do what you've been doing. Score 0-0. Let's get back to it and keep throwing haymakers.
Yeah, and the pressure doesn't change at that point. Even if you're up at the half, you still have nothing to lose. So don't, because some of these cats, we saw so many times when they gave up those big leads, they get a big lead, and then for some reason they got tight. No, bro, you're leading. Go 0-0 and just do what you do, because it is hard in the second half. You're playing in that heat too. Your body's a little bit, you're not 100%. You're probably about 80, 75%.
Yeah, you've been throwing your moves out there now. So
yeah.
Your moves ain't getting no fresher.
They're not getting any fresher. So really understand that. And last but not least, and Lamar did this, our teams did this, no better time. Those first two series of that second half can really set the tone. If you go back out there and hit them right back in the mouth and say, nah, that wasn't a fluke, we're still here. I think those little things like that will, I think that'll help their chance if they happen to be up in the half. So
that's how they keep the momentum.
This Bama offense, I'm serious. I really think, and I know, look, I don't mean to poo-poo Bryce Young. Obviously, he won the Heisman. He's gonna be a top 5 pick. I know this. I'm aware of this.
Probably top 3 pick.
Okay. All right, Q. Thank you. Whose side are you on, my friend? Whose side are you on? We've been doing this long enough. Whose side are you on? I really think we can get to him and we can make it a really long day for him. He just doesn't have that Burrow effect, that Cam Newton effect to me. I think that we've seen him get a little rattled, and I think we can, like with Georgia, obviously it's the Georgia defense. It's an all-time defense, but even that A&M game, if A&M could get it done at home, it's feasible we can be in the mix.
You know what's crazy about that? And I've thought a lot about that. And I watch Bama weirdly because I don't watch a lot of teams outside of UT, but what's not being talked about, and maybe Saban controls the media, like some conspiracy theorists will say, Bama's O-line is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
That is the thing where Bama was drafting O-line year after year, multiple. Their issue last year, even bigger than the Georgia's defensive line, was real. So let's not worry about that piece of it. They had 3 or 4 first rounders. But all of the games I saw Bama struggle, the Florida game, just did different games. Their O-line got their butts tore up.
Forgot about that game.
Have they improved that much? By the way, don't have Flood anymore, who's on our sideline. And so has that effect from a recruiting, which also says a lot about the Brockermeyers, the fact that they're not, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think that's where a little bit of a weakness that haven't been talked about, which also leaks to Bryce Young at times showing a little bit of, happy feet and making throws, being a little off and stuff like that. So if we can, again, get pressure or penetrate that O-line a little bit like we saw several teams do last year, I think that's where we may have a chance.
And Bryce Young can run, and we know that. Yeah, he can run.
He had 100 yards rushing last week.
Yeah, yes. Contained pressure, right?
Which, by the way, tells me that O-line still has a little bit of work, because it wasn't necessarily design runs. It was okay. It broke down a little bit and he made a play. So
I just a quarterback that can run,
that's our kryptonite.
I know. It makes me think about KJ Jefferson last year. I get scared.
I know. I kind of blacked out, forgot he had 100 yards. I'm not going to lie, fellas. Now I remember that.
Oh, my God. 100.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's the last weekend.
Yeah, he did have a century on the ground. I forgot about that. It was a long Saturday. It was hyped after the win. I do think though, like we saw him, like I'm not saying we're gonna get that Georgia kind of pressure, but he looked uncomfortable in that game. And he looked uncomfortable in that Florida game. That was a really good point, Q. Like people forget about that Florida game.
Bro, that game
year.
was really close.
That game was tight,
frankly,
man.
You know, we don't do the what ifs, but Florida actually screwed that up. I think it was a fumble. It was something crazy where Florida was in position A and they ended up screwing that up. But their D line tore Bama O line up, and that was what I remember more than anything. But quick question, Lamar. Other than football, so you go back to school. You take care of business. What does that mean? What made you go back, and what are you planning on doing with that extra degree?
So when I had retired from football, I wanted to get into venture capital, and I started an angel investing group, and really wanted to be a founder and learn more about it, learn how to raise capital, learn how to create a product and launch it in the market. So I designed a smart box for age-restricted items that can, go in different markets like hotels, airports, stadiums, and things like that. They can deliver anything that requires you to be of age to shop.
That's real, man. Proud of it. Proud of you. So
I love that.
Hit them with the good.
That's cool. All right, man. Everybody gets this question. Could be on the field, off the field. Could be anything. Could be when you played, when you didn't play. What is your favorite memory as a Texas Longhorn?
Favorite memory as Texas Longhorn. I mean, there's a lot. My senior year was magical, so we only lost that natty, and everything in between that was just pure amazing. I'd have to think it's when we won the Big 12 in January. In the first game there, we're seconds away from not going to national championship, and Hunter Lawrence brings one home for us. I think that's probably my favorite memory.
Yeah, Hunter Lawrence, what an underrated UT player.
Bro, we will take Hunter right now. We were beg for Hunter Lawrence right now, bro.
He's tucked in there, but Hunter Lawrence he won a few games for us.
Yeah, he's big, man. He was big time. He's a very underrated player. Lamar, thank you for doing the Burnt Orange proud. We hope.
Appreciate you, fam. I'll see you Friday. It's a dude you're gonna want to talk to about venture capitals Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. The dude from New York.
Appreciate that, Quan. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for joining.
Horns and
Hook 'em, baby. Tell the crew what's up.
Let's get that win, baby. Let's do it. Hook 'em horns. Thank you, Lamar.
What's up, gents?
All right, real quick, just to wrap it up. He's a great dude. We're wrapping up. It's still recording. Nick, Toss, Q, then me. Are we gonna do it or no?
Well, are they gonna put us on the spot like this?
Yeah, I'm putting on the spot like this.
So Nick already said the line is 20.5 points right now. The over under 64.5. So that would be a predictive score of 42-22. So
I think we're gonna cover. I don't think we're gonna win.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I really am. And I think it's gonna be a absolute dogfight. I really think we're gonna see, dude, you got game day here again. It's crazy that the similarities of what we're seeing versus that LSU game. Now, you don't have a leader like a Sam Ehlinger in there, but you also have a different coach and coaches and a different mindset from that standpoint. So I am a little worried about Quinn just because, dude, this is you throwing in the fire. You got number one team on the country and you haven't played football. I guess you have in a week now, but Bama's D-line, you've never seen that at South Lake. So I think we're going to cover. I think dudes are going to show up, make some plays on both sides, but I think we're going to cover. I don't know that we're going to win. I think we're going to lose by 10.
Is that enough, you think, for them to get their motivation that they played a close game? Or do you think it needs to be
that's close? No, it's close.
100%.
100%.
And really from a standpoint of the beauty of what I feel like we have now is they lose by 10. There's no moral victories, but there's something to build on from that standpoint. And I feel like this coaching staff would be like, listen, that's not good enough. Whereas I remember being the guy who did the post-game interview after the LSU game, and I was like, fellas, that was fun. That was great. But we lost. And there was damn near celebrating in the locker room, and that's what won't happen from a standpoint of this coaching staff. And I think that's why we'll build on it and go into UTSA and conference a lot better if we show up and make it a dogfight.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if we lose by 10 to the number one team in the nation, who coming into the year is supposed to win college football playoff, like you're in a great position, right? Because that means that if you play them again, you've got a chance. Like, I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with, if we lose by 10 points, we just got to pick our head up and get back to work and do our thing. I mean, I honestly came out of last week looking at what we did, and I was starting to sip on some of the Kool-Aid that Josh likes to pour out so frequently. But then, Josh, you kind of talked me back in this episode, because you were like, you basically just like poo-pooed on Bryce Young the entire episode. And now I'm like, I feel like we put bad juju out there. No, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
he ran well, but like he didn't throw. He wasn't like, he has 5 touchdowns, but he didn't torch him for 1,000,000 yards in the air. I think this guy is ratable. I don't think that's a word, but I think now it is. And I think you can get to him a little bit. And I think we're going to cover. I think we're going to lose. But you bring up the over under. I think this one goes under. And I'd be happy if it did. If we covered and this thing went under, I'm really outside of a win.
That would be next level, is because I mean our defense played their ass off.
For sure.
That's what I want. I would want. How bad? Yeah.
Every bit of the Kool-Aid if that happens. If we go under and cover,
the defense looked good though. Like last week.
Dude, they did.
We made tackles. Like we hit people. Like,
and we didn't hesitate.
No.
In groups too. There weren't a lot of isolation tackles.
Yes, dude. Like there were the young kid. What's his Baron? Baron Sorrell he had 1.5 tackles though. They said they called it 2 in the booth, but he had 1.5 in the stat line because him and Coburn got there together. Guys are gang tackling in the backfield together. And I think Jameson's electric.
Yeah.
He is. Playmaker.
I mean, I do think, like Sark said in his post-game presser, like he's glad that Quinn didn't have a 18 for 20 game, right? He threw his pick early. He forced the throw. It happened, but like he bounced back. So it's good that we've seen him be dealt a hand of adversity and overcome it. But he's going to have a real challenge ahead of him. But he's also he's an ace in the hole too. Cause like Nick, you brought up so many times, like they don't have the tape on Quinn, and he can show us something. And if he was the best quarterback in this game, we've talked so much about Bryce Young, like, would we be surprised? He's supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks every single game in college football. So I do think that, like, if you line up the things, and if you were to go fast forward a week from now and Texas somehow won, all the things add up where, like, there'd be enough people being like, well, Sark used to coach there. Well, Quinn was one of the highly touted recruits of college football we've seen.
He's supposed to be great.
Years.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they've got Xavier Worthy, who on any given Saturday could be the best receiver in college football. Like, the things add up where it could happen. I don't expect it to, but I think it's a lot of football. It's 4 quarters of 15 minutes. That's a lot of football. Like,
that's why I don't think we could hang for that long. That's why
the thing is, I love everything you said, Toss, because it's so true. The problem is culturally Bama's mindset versus what we've seen from Texas in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That's why I have my doubts, because Bama's coming in here with that mindset. They were in the Natty last 2. I mean, Josh, you said it. Not a lot changed. Yeah, it didn't. But this cast was in the national championship. This won't be too big for them. It really won't. And so it will look cool. The burnt orange is going to be thick. It's going to be crazy. But most of these dudes have been in this scenario before.
Yeah.
And that gives them certainly an advantage.
100%. And I'll leave you with this, though, guys, because we're going to rock and roll here and head into hopefully have a good Bama guy this week to chop it up with. But to ride off in the sunset or this great Lamarr Houston episode. We have nothing to lose, like he said.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
You
We lose this
have
game, we
nothing
could still
to
make
lose.
it.
I've never played when I was at Texas. I never played in those nothing to lose games.
Ever.
It'd have been cool. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't have. But the no, it wouldn't. Never mind. We were
Yeah.
always the ones. But you going back to when LSU, as crazy as that game went, you remember the post game where Orgeron saying F Texas, and all that. The other issue is they're crazy if they think that because Bama's number one, they still don't see that burnt orange and we don't have a bullseye. LSU was what, number one, top 5, number 2, something like that. And they partied in that damn locker room as if it was the other way around. So what it brings on coming to Austin, coming to Texas, what it means for Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, I just hope our guys match their intensity because it will be as if it's flipped. The Bama guys are coming there as if Texas number one, and our guys need to match that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Quan Cosby. I'm Joshua Fisher. You heard Alexander Toss from the Rock Tosopoulos and DJ Nikki Snacks Kreider, who will be playing in Austin. Where are you playing this weekend, Nick?
Rio, Friday night.
Nick is DJing Rio Friday night. If anyone
real?
wants to, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go, Q.
I love Q.
Huddle up.
Hold on. Turn the recording off.
All right, hook 'em horns. On that note, hook 'em horns. We're out of here.
Hook 'em.